I guess I get a lot of frustration from constituents that, although I think intellectually we can understand why it's important to send people to the online reporting, because there is definitely more immediately serious calls. We don't have enough deputies to respond to everything. I get it, but constituents, are calling because they're concerned. They're concerned about their safety, their neighbor's safety, their property safety, or concerns about trauma, PTSD. Something is really bothering them enough to call, and then to be told to just go to enter it online, even though intellectually we understand why. If the activity that's happening is illegal, right? They know this. It's just so frustrating for them that there is no immediate response. Yes, it gets entered into data. I'm not criticizing at all. I'm just expressing the frustration of constituents. It gets entered down the road. That data can be interesting. I know Fire Marshal Rice is going to visit some of these hot spots. Maybe that'll prevent it in future years. But at the time, they want someone to show up and stop the illegal activity. And I think that they just feel like it is not fair that people get away with this activity that potentially could burn a house down, burn a truck down, kill a child. I mean, these things have all happened in Pierce County. So I don't know if anybody has a response to that or a solution, because like you said, we can't possibly staff enough to send a deputy out to all of these calls. But if anyone has any ideas about how we can do better, that would be great.
Well, I think from Southtown 911 perspective, so this the online reporting, since it was initiated in 2022, has kind of evolved each year. We learn a little bit more each year. We make some corrections each year. Like for this year, we found out last year at the end of the year when we had people start taking a look at it and pulling the data, and that we don't really collect good fire data where there's been a injury related to fireworks. And the fire departments have generally done that on their own, but this year we've developed a process where we can now collect that too, and it's going to be available to the agencies. I think from our perspective, the better we can triage the call, the more information that the citizen can provide us related to, as Councilmember Dennison is saying, how it's actually impacting them, allows us better to decide whether that's a dispatchable call or we would move them to online reporting. So I think more information, it's more specific, helps the call takers identify what they need to do with that call. Not that they wouldn't send an officer, and also it's a balance of resources in the field to what they can respond to. So.
Okay,
I don't know if that helps.
It's helpful, and I know it's a problem that we don't have a 100% solution for. Fire Marshal Rice has the answer.
Probably not the answer, but I can explain what we're doing. So you notice that this data has been collected since 2022. That's when I came over to the county. So we were part of emergency management, and there was not really an appetite for any type of enforcement. Now that we were realigned under the new executive leadership, we are being allowed to be a fire marshal's office, so we will take enforcement action. But being a former law enforcement officer, 4th of July is a disaster. It's chaos. I think we have a former, it's very hard to manage, especially if the people are understaffed. We know the sheriff's running understaffed. So I'm going to be out with 2 of my deputies on the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th in the evening, probably from 9 to 3 a.m., something like that, whatever works. And then we're working very close with the Sheriff's Department and Southtown 911. So if there is those issues that maybe the Sheriff's Department doesn't have the asset to go to and it doesn't require that, they have a way to get a hold of us. We have working channels that we put together so we can go out and maybe just figure out what's going on in that situation and take care of it right there. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm so excited that you're going to have a bigger in-person presence.
Yeah, it's first time. Like I said, somebody asked my measure of success and if we all make it home that night, because we really, this is the first time, and we picked to do it on the 250th birthday of America. So
there you go.
Why not?
Thank you.
Well, so it looks like we've already stepped into the panel, so that's great. Kevin, I just, if you want to make a statement of summarize, what you guys are doing, or whatever you want to speak to the body.
Thank you, Councilmember Herrera. The slide that Diana posted up that shows, the graph with the spike towards the end of the day, what you're looking at is probably a pretty good indicator of a lot of human behavior. Folks that are not into the fireworks have reached the end of the day. They might have pets that are sharing the basement with them, that kind of thing. And so they're frustrated and they're upset and they want it to be done. So that's why you see that spike of activity right toward the end. If you think about it, though, from the big number, 3,196 calls, and this is sort of responding to Councilmember Denson's question about the practical reality of it. If we had every single deputy and every single officer and every single 911 call taker and dispatcher on, not even close enough to respond to all of those calls. There's just not that many people to respond to 3,000 calls. And so there has to be value in channeling or diverting some of those non-emergency calls. I don't know how, though, when somebody's finally gotten to the point where they've actually dialed those 3 numbers, they're pretty serious about it and they do want a response, Councilmember Denson. I don't think there is a magical solution to that. Part of the I've had some earlier discussions with Andrea and Councilmember Denson about this, just, I suppose, sharing perspective. If I zoom back all the way and I think about this, think about it. What is Independence Day? What is the 4th of July? It was a rebellion. We call it a revolution, we call it independence, but that's fundamentally what it is. It's a rebellious activity against the country that you used to be part of, and you rebelled, and you had a revolution, and you had a war, and you fought, and you had rockets bursting in air. And that's been part of the culture of the United States for centuries. And how do you change that behavior? I don't think you do. I think you channel it. You could channel it at this point, but in Pierce County, it's nearly impossible to turn it off. We've talked about things like, well, there's supply. You can turn off all the supply, but you've got a supply that's coming in that comes literally from China, and the tribes buy tons of fireworks. So you could regulate the safe and sane fireworks, but the tribes still have the ability to bring in fireworks. Well, you could possibly go at the federal level and turn it off at the federal level, but then you have got an issue with the tribes. And so it's a very difficult scenario in Washington State, especially because we have tribal supply here, among other things. And then I say, you need to recognize, even though there are a lot of people that show up in council chambers and say, hey, me and my pet don't want this to happen anymore, there's probably just as many people that are out there that launch off fireworks that still want it to be a thing. And so maybe the best approach is not to just say no or yes, but to start to channel activity. Hey, you can go launch fireworks over here in this area. Largely acceptable over in this area. Maybe that's in the port, but don't do it over here. Maybe that's the approach rather than just saying yes or no. That's just being me, being practical.
Thank you. I would also just make a comment on not just fireworks. I mean, there is other instances where people call in to 911, let's say to report on a drunk driver, and they give the information and no police show up. It's not that it'd be safe to say that it's not that they don't, if it's a safety issue, after the triage when it comes to fireworks, if it's a safety issue versus a noise complaint and triaging it, if it's a serious issue, we want to get out there, but it doesn't mean that we're always going to catch them. We're always going to find them. It's only as good as some of the data that you get from the telephone. People give wrong addresses sometimes and things like that. So I think you hit it on the nail, the triage or the channel of activity a little bit. So that's just my comment. Councilmember or Committee Member Denson.
Kind of related to that, Fire Marshal Rice, do you and does our law enforcement have the ability to cite and fine if you find that someone is shooting off illegal fireworks or shooting fireworks off, discharging fireworks during an unallowed time?
So if you look in 17C, I think I sent it over to Andrea Kelly, there is a section in there, I think it was drafted in 2004, that gives us the ability to write civil and criminal citations, also known as a notice to appear. The civil citations are for violations of the construction regulations, like you needed a permit, you didn't get a permit, you tore down our signs, that kind of stuff. The criminal ones would be any violation of the fire code, which would include fireworks. And even legal fireworks, if they're used outside of those hours, become illegal fireworks because it's an illegal activity. So we do have the ability to do that. We're working through the district court right now to figure out the process, where we need to submit them, how, because we've never done it. We're more than willing to do it, and we'll do it this year. But we really want to focus on the education piece. We don't want to take away anybody's fun. Some people love them, some people hate them, some people are just neutral. So we want those enjoyable times to, shoot up the fireworks that they purchased. We want the tents to be successful because quite often they're for a nonprofit. That's how they get some of their money for the year. We do have a lower amount. I think we have 39 tents this year. And somebody asked about New Year's. I think there was 6 last year, and 3 people said we'll never do that again because it's cold and rainy and there's not really an appetite to be outside, right? So we're going to really try and educate. We have 2-foot by 3-foot signs that will go up at every tent that are very clear about the rules, the regulations, the consequences. We're going to go out. If we recognize some of these spots, we're going to go knock on some doors. I've already talked to somebody, and they agreed to move it to an area that's not going to set trees on fire. So the other thing is, under state law, if there's a fire and emergency services responds, whoever caused that is subject to reimbursing everybody that showed up. And my understanding, I don't know about West, but all the Pierce County agencies and unincorporated, they're going to use the state mobilization rates. Not inexpensive. So, I mean, if they have to send engines and a ladder and battalion chiefs out there, because you set I can't even tell you what the cost would be. It depends on how long they're there. It could be very substantial.
Very expensive, I'm sure. And just can I ask one last question real quick? Because I got this question, I think, today or yesterday. If the conditions are very dry, do you have the ability, Fire Marshal Rice, to ban fireworks? Like if the conditions are that dry?
Yeah, there's a procedure, and it used to be pretty complex. We had to check moisture levels and all kinds of meteorologist stuff that I don't know how to do. So we made it pretty clear if we get, excuse me, the conditions where the humidity's low in the plants or just in the air, wind speed, temperatures get high. If we have to go to a stage 2 burn ban, I would consult per code with the county executive, and then we would make the determination. But yes, we can ban them if we hit that.
Okay, I think I'm remembering this one from last year that we just changed it to make it easier. Thank you, Chair.
We'll follow up with that one because the moisture content in Enumclaw is different than in Puyallup or just outside of Puyallup. So how do you broad brush the whole county when it comes to
So for the whole county, what we're going to do is take it from DNR. So if those conditions get to the point where they're going to stop everything, we're going to follow suit. And it's pretty clear when we get to that point with, the wind speeds are picking up. We haven't had moisture in a month or two. Everything's dry. We're hitting the 80, 90 degree temperatures. We'll certainly do that. And then we'll move into the stage 2.
Okay. Can we remember Hitchin? No? Morrell. That's the C2C numbers. So.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments, Kevin. I think they're there's wisdom in that comment, but I would like to hear from the fire department, and because you're kind of the tip of the spear if things get out of control. And what do you do when you go out on a call? Because I assume you're heavily impacted. You don't have any authority to write any citations, so.
Yeah, we don't have the authority to write citations. We go and mitigate the situation. We do up staff for the 4th of July, knowing that we're going to get a lot more calls. But, the same as South Sound, sometimes it may take a while longer to get to a call than a normal day because you're going on so many calls. We've been very lucky in our jurisdiction the last several years. We've not had a lot of major incidents. We've had a lot of small stuff, a lot of brush fires, things like that, small things, but that we were able to mitigate really, really quickly. But I feel like we've been lucky.
Okay. Do you have an education element that you, as an agency, sent out to try to
Absolutely.
prepare?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. Actually, our PIO met with South Sound's PIO just today, and they're putting together some messaging to, just like Councilmember Hitchin asked, like the different things like when to call 911, when not to call 911. They're actually putting out some video around that. So knowing when to call and when not to call. We're also putting out messaging around like how to light off fireworks safely. Every jurisdiction, we all have different rules. We have 3 jurisdictions that we respond to, and they all have a different rule around fireworks. So some you can only light off on the 4th, some you can light off, multiple days, and in the town of Stillicum, they're illegal. So just making sure that folks know what the rules are in their area. And in years past, and I anticipate we'll do this again, we've worked with the Pierce County Fire Marshal's Office to kind of put together a list of this is all the jurisdictions, and these are the different rules that are in each of the jurisdictions, so that people know, hey, this is where I live, so these are the rules, and this is how we have to follow them. We also usually put out some videos around how to do fireworks safely. With a nice little checklist of all the things you should have in order to light off fireworks safely. So we do a lot of education around it, and I think we will continue to do that this year. And our the PIOs in the region work very well together, and they put out a lot of common messaging so that we're not all saying different things.
Yeah, I think there again, that's important, is that you have a common message out there, no matter where you live, whether it be, East Pierce, Central Pierce, West Pierce. I know when someone used to put out the turkey one in the fryer. I mean, that was great. I mean, stuff like that on social media was great. If you could do one on fireworks, that'd be great too. But I think there again, the messaging needs to be the same, and I think it's an education part. Councilmember Herrera the hair on his back of his neck will go up, and maybe District 5 too. But I was down, I've been Pierce County all my whole life, and I remember when the city of Tacoma, law enforcement sat at every ingress and egress down on the reservation and pulled over every car that left the reservation checking for fireworks. That went over for about 24 hours before things went crazy, and the tribe did not like that. But as far as my understanding is, that's the only place you can really shoot off fireworks is on tribal land. I would, as far as stuff that goes and blows up. Obviously, treading softly on that, but there is definite definitions on safe and sane versus what goes up and blows up. Because, and that hopefully you get into that. I went down to the TNT vendor show yesterday and was impressed on the information that they were sending out to all those vendors that were signing up to sell fireworks, and then the safety protocol that they go through with each vendor is, I think, a marked improvement. So there again, as long as the messaging can be the same, even with those who sell the safe and sane fireworks. So.
Yeah, we actually have one jurisdiction, the city of University Place. There's like even less, they have even more restrictions on the fireworks that can be used in UP than they do in Lakewood, or the normal safe and sane fireworks. So we have a lot of different rules, and it's just trying to make the message make sense for everyone. So we try and use like the common denominator in our messaging, so something that can apply to everybody, no matter who sees it. because we know we have followers from other jurisdictions that look at our page. So we want to make sure that, that we're saying similar things.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Fire Marshal Rice. Do you know when the last time the fireworks were banned due to weather in Pierce County, unincorporated Pierce County, if ever?
I'm not aware of any time.
Ever. So it never has met that threshold. Yeah. And I know there's some deputies in the back over there, and I'm going to ask a question way over there to you if you can have the answer to, like, what role does this sheriff's office play in fireworks laws or enforcement, if any? If anybody knows back there, you can come to the podium, because I think the public may want to know what's the reality of it all.
Good afternoon, everybody. Major Frank Brown, in charge of patrol. And the question was, sir?
The question is, what role does the sheriff's office play in firework enforcement, or if any?
The role we're going to play is, if we're going to get dispatched out to one of these calls, we're going to go out there.
Yeah.
But we also have to triage these calls as well. As you know, that fireworks complaints on the 4th of July and on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, we're plussing up our staffing, because those are 2 days within the year that, our call volume just goes through the roof. Yep. So the fireworks and noise complaints aren't the only calls that we're dealing with. We're dealing with domestics. Anytime you have nice weather and it's right on the weekend and you have alcohol, okay, we're busy.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to try put those calls in priority and get to them as we can. Okay, met with Fire Marshal Rice, and we're trying to work together on going out and doing some enforcement work. He understands our limitations, but we're going to try to get out there. But at the end of the day, sir, we're going to try to get out there and help do some enforcement on this.
Here's the question. I know that Fire Marshal Rice, you were talking a little bit about that you're trying to get district court to interpret with what the RC is it the RCW or the Pierce County Code, how it's kind of vague right now if you can write citations or not. If that doesn't get resolved by 4th of July, is there any way that you can write like an affidavit to the sheriff's office, and the sheriff's office can charge through you? I don't know if there's an out-of-the-box way of doing this, because I know they would probably love for you to go out there and do these things, because it's tough and they're busy. So,
yeah, Chair Herrera, we could go out, we could take the report, we could draft a report and get it to one of their detectives or deputies to submit it for charging, if that appears to be the case. And the deal with district court right now, we're just trying to figure out like the process, how they want us to fill out the citation, where it needs to go, when it needs to be there, that type of logistical stuff, because we've never done it before. I think it's fairly clear in 17C that we can write those citations. And there's even a bond schedule in there, a bail schedule. I don't know how accurate it is. So we can do it. We're working real close with the sheriff's department. Our goal is to get out there and educate and provide some extra bodies on those days. I don't know how many. We'll probably have 3 every day. Budget's a little tight, so we're just trying to work through that. And we don't really know how it's going to go this year. It's the first time. It's a big birthday for America. We're up staffing. We've never even went out on those days other than an on-call fire investigator.
So one more question a little bit on that. The wording on that county code, I did a cursory read on it, and it is a little, because it talks about citations, but it doesn't say criminal citation. It doesn't say civil citation. It doesn't determine between the two a little bit. And there's a big difference between the two, I think, a little bit. Is there any way we can maybe improve the wording on it so it's perfectly clear that you are authorized to do this? Because you're talking to the district court right now to see if you are, right?
I think that is pretty clear in 17C, in the citations section that I sent over. So. I mean, it talks about when we'll write civil citations and when we'll write criminal citations.
Okay. Just making sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate it. Yeah, because like I said, we've not done it, so all new territory for us.
One more question I'm going to ask. So one other question is, with the data we're getting from 911 calls, I'm sure we have a geographical pinpoint where those are at, and we've been doing it since 2022. Is there neighborhoods or areas where illegal fireworks are more common, to where you're not just driving around looking for it, you kind of know where it's possibly historically going to be at?
Yes, there's a couple areas. These guys produce some great maps for us to look at and study and figure out. We're definitely going to have some people embedded on the Key Peninsula, because that's the fire risk out there is keeps me up at night. And then maybe Parkland, Spanaway area. I just want to we're going to meet next week with my team to figure out exactly where we're going to put people and when.
Okay, thank you. I'm talking too much. Community Morale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To follow up, I always, in my talking to deputies, they can roll up on a scene, see fireworks debris everywhere, people standing around, but unless you see someone lighting something off, you really, can you produce a citation on anyone?
No, we're going to have to see the actual act before we can do any enforcement. It doesn't mean that we can't talk to the folks there.
Okay, so you pretty much, you don't, do you roll up with lights and everything and watch them scatter, or do you kind of just creep up saying, with a body camera on and saying, okay, we got you?
No, it'd be a routine call at that point. We're just going to roll up there, make contact with the folks, and have that discussion.
Okay. And Fire Marshal Rice, how are you planning on doing anything different?
It'd be the exact same way. If we observe it, we'll just stop and chat with them. If South Sound or the Sheriff's Department gets a hold of us, it'd be a routine. We'll just drive up there and get out and chat with them. See what we got going on.
Great. Yeah, and you can concentrate on District 7. That's fine.
That would be wonderful. We will take all of you.
Speaking of District 7,
Following up on Councilmember Morrell, Fire Marshal Rice, you and I talked a little bit about the usefulness of video. If neighbors, can you talk a little bit about whether that's helpful to you and the sheriff deputies?
Yeah, there was a question: if we were to be given video, can there be a charging done through that? And the answer is, if it's good video, yes. If it's garbage video, then it's not going to do it. We really have to be able to identify the crime, the person, where. And I'll give an example. There was a large neighborhood that had everybody shooting off fireworks, except for the people that left because they were afraid of fireworks. Their house was set on fire because of the fireworks, but nobody in that neighborhood bought fireworks. Nobody knew where they came from. 20 houses, nobody knew. So, I mean, nobody wanted to tell on anybody. So it was these people, we had to call them up on Mount Rainier and tell them that their house was on fire and please come back home. So if somebody's got great video, we can pursue that too. You see it all the time on the news for video evidence of a crime. So it's got to be good video though.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Community Hitchin.
Thank you, Chair. We changed our rules several years ago to identify the 4th of July and New Year's Eve as the days for unincorporated Pierce County as days you can light off fireworks. I would be curious, don't need it today, but I would be curious to see about the days outside of the 4th and the impacts on people who just do the right thing. I'm not a huge fan of fireworks. My dog does not like fireworks. Not my former dogs hated fireworks. But I feel like the number of people lighting fireworks has reduced, but it's just my brain saying that. And I'd be curious to see if the data shows even just a little bit of a decrease or not. And so I'm just curious if, again, I don't know that we have good data before, but if there'd be any way to see if the 5th and the 3rd, we've seen a little bit of people following the rules. they want to light off their fireworks for all your reasons. Just curious if there's any way to see evidence that.
Well, Councilmember Hitchin, we certainly can run the data on the days prior and after and see what it looks like.
Okay.
So we're happy to do that.
Okay, thank you. And then Fire Marshal, a second question, or potentially third question around your role. Are you authorized to confiscate illegal fireworks if you were to come up on a scene and they had this entire, like, I've seen people like make the pot of fireworks. They're just sitting there close to where they're launching, which is a whole nother thing. But like they're sitting there. Half of them came from someplace that's selling not safe, not sane, but they have them. Are you authorized? Would that be something you'd have to call the sheriff's department?
No, we're authorized under state law to confiscate illegal fireworks. We do have to retain them for 30 days, and the owner has to know. So last year I had somebody selling them out of the parking lot of a nail salon, and we took about $4,000 worth of fireworks. So we'll just secure those, and eventually the sheriff's bomb squad will come get them this year, because I had been told of a box truck that likes to drive around and sell illegal fireworks. So I might be looking for that person to have a chat with. But we will confiscate, and I'm working with one of the large retail vendors. They have a secure area in their warehouse that they can keep those under my lock and key, so there's no, they don't think they're reselling them or doing something like that. They have the capabilities to hold them securely and safely until we can get the bomb squad out to go take them. I hope I don't have to confiscate truckloads of fireworks, but yes, legal fireworks will be confiscated.
Okay, because then they can just put them back in their house, store them until New Year's Eve, and then we start over. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Committee Member Morrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could one of you explain the difference between legal and illegal fireworks?
Basically, it's the amount of powder in them and what they do.
So I would assume, like, going to a supplier like TNT, I assume that's safe and sane brand fireworks. I mean, those are the ones that go into your licensed booths, right? Yeah. What's the difference between those and the other ones?
Typically, it's the aerial and the amount of powder for the boom, the big boom ones, the mortars. So any legal stand in Pierce County will only have the consumer fireworks that are legal. We did find somebody last year that had some backpacks in there that were filled probably for a different state and had some illegal fireworks in them. We allowed them to break them all down and reseal them to sell, but we made it very clear this year, if we're doing an inspection on a tent and they have illegal fireworks, they will be closed. We're going to tear up the permit and they're done. They can take their tent down and send the fireworks back to wherever they got them.
Okay, so the ones that you license, that you monitor, that you permit are all ones that don't blow up per se.
Per se, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a whole list on our website, illegal and illegal, and then the State Fire Marshal's website actually has a listing of all the licensed legal shows, if you'd want to do that instead of doing it at your home. So.
Okay. I just want to make sure that people understand that we can only monitor what we kind of sell, and a lot of, like what you said, those are fundraisers for a lot of organizations. Because when I was down there on Sunday at the TNT, I would say 50+% were Pacific Islanders that were putting together booths. I did not know that was a thing. But, they say that's where they get their money to run their nonprofit and other functions. So I just want to make sure, because, I'm always, when someone calls and says, hey, I got mortars going off, they're going and blowing up, how come you allow them to be sold in Pierce County? My comment is I don't.
Yeah, correct. They're not coming from the licensed retail stands. I think I mentioned we're down to 39 stands this year. Last year we had 43. So we did have an increase in fees to help with the public education, the inspection aspect. So I don't know if that did it, or if the appetite for fireworks is starting to wane a little bit because everything else, gas, and I mean, everything else went up crazy. So maybe the extra income to purchase them isn't there. I don't know.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'm going to ask a question because since we have you here and the public could be listening, what is a friendly reminder for everybody going out who want to do the right thing? What do they need to prepare to light fireworks? What's the safety things they need to have? Anybody can answer.
I can take it. So a couple of things, and because we investigate the fires that happen after you don't do the safe thing, or the limbs that are missing, or any of that kind of stuff. So remember, there's no quality control when these are made. It's just not. We don't know if that fuse will last a second, 15 seconds. Don't know. It goes out, you relight it, and it detonates. So if it doesn't go off, leave it alone. Just leave it out there till the end of your time. And then when you're ready, wet everything down with water, have a metal bucket full of water, have a shovel with a long, stay away from that thing. Unfortunately, we had a 15-year-old killed last year from a mortar. So we want everybody to have fun, but we want them to understand. And what I try to tell parents is when your child is getting ready to drive, you just throw them the keys and say, go up front and we'll figure it out. I'm going to have a beer, go and drive around the neighborhood. It's like if you're giving them something dangerous, fireworks are dangerous. They blow up. They will burn you. They will catch your house on fire, but they're fun. So we have to have that responsibility to know, like, do not send your children out there with a box of fireworks you just bought from a fireworks stand. They're dangerous. They're fun, but they're dangerous. So we got to make sure that everybody knows, and we don't need a large wildfire because of fireworks. And I can speak, and I'm sure Chief can speak. I always try and convince people there's a huge difference between structural firefighting and wildland firefighting. They are not one and the same. We don't have the people, and we have these incredible tree canopies that stop water from coming down. So if we have a big fire, we'll have air support, we'll have ground troops, but it takes a long time to mobilize a wildfire crew. We just can't take everybody out of one of the stations, but they're going to start. But so it's just, people really need to realize the threat that's out there for a fire. That's why we're trying to regulate as much as we can with education. Have fun, but don't jeopardize your neighbors, yourself. It can get really ugly at the end.
I appreciate for the safety tips and a reminder for everybody. So anybody else on the council have any more questions for this excellent panel? Okay, we do. Community member.
Just a comment. This is a challenging issue, as we've discussed. We've made a lot of progress over the last year, and I just want to thank all of your groups, and include the prosecutor's office and all the other fire department agencies out there for really trying to work together, collecting data, figuring out ways we can educate and enforce together. We've made huge strides, and hopefully this will help communicate to the public better so that they're understanding the risks and will make good choices and follow the rules and hopefully keep people safe. So thank you all.
Thank you. Okay. That should be. Anybody have any last words? No?
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Just be safe, have fun. If you ever have questions, I'm very easy to get a hold of. People can call my cell phone. Like if you want us to come out and look at fireworks you think you don't know if they're legal or illegal. Russ Armstrong, one of my guys, is a licensed pyrotechnic. So, and then one of my plan reviewers is a licensed pyrotechnic. So we have a lot of skill set there. So if you have questions, just call and ask.
Okay, thank you.